Welcome. Yes. Hello. And we appreciate you riding with us. It's the Jock Market Strategy Show, as we're going to get you ready for Thursday night football and shift gears, get you ready for Sunday, the IPO stage and everything for Thursday night. We have our own projections on Awesemo that we're going to use as far as measurements and barometers, but also look ahead to that slate on Sunday to get you prepared to make some money and kind of figure out some game flows. We, as myself, Eric Lindquist is in the house. Look at that. What's happening, brother?
What's going on? It's good to be back on with you. It's been a hot second. You've been busy with fatherhood. You're busy thinking about your Eagles tonight. You're a little bit preoccupied for sure.
Well, better me, right, than a Giants fan or a Jets fan where there's no vested interest at all in this game. I'm fully locked in here, so I can hit you with a bunch of different angles you probably weren't even thinking about to react to try and mine some talent or value if it is at the bottom. But yes, life is crazy. Life is hectic for me. I see for you, though, and you don't stop, which is great. You're the machine on this entire network.
I'll stop it. No, I enjoy what I do.
You're everywhere.
That makes it easy. I am everywhere. I guess some people like me, and you know what? If you don't, it's also fantastic because you get even more of me. Let it sink in, enjoy it. But I get to talk MLB, NBA's coming up here next week, and that's my baby. PGA, NFL. I like having my hands in a little bit of everything, and it keeps me accountable, keeps me working hard, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
All right, so you and I paired up. Tyler's in the house producing. Yeah. We appreciate you out there on the chat. So say what's up, all three of us, and hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. The subscribe button is there for you. And then look, we're going to continue to tell you about this great deal that we have with Jock Market, where we're going to match your first deposit up to $50, 100% up to $50. Just use our promo code Awesemo. Let's look, my friend. You mentioned Thursday night football. It's all eyes on the Eagles and Bucs in South Philadelphia. Start with the quarterbacks and kind of how the game flow you think can play out, to where if there's pre-snap value or maybe you're waiting to jump on it with Jalen Hurts and Tom Brady.
Yeah, so it's really hard, just like in regular DFS tournaments on other sites, playing the quarterbacks up top and getting exposure to them on Jock Market as well. You have to pay a pretty penny. When it pays out $25 per share to the top end, a lot of people might just jam Jalen Hurts, might just jam Tom Brady, but it's really hard because our expected value for them, $19.26 and $17.49. It's tough to believe that one of those two might not come in at that number or above it for their expected value numbers. And, getting exposure to some other players that have the kind of upside to be able to get there. We'll talk about one guy specifically from the Tampa Bay side that I think is really, really undervalued for Jock Market compared to what his potential of possibly being the top scoring player is. But Jalen Hurts is our highest projected player at Awesemo on the day on DFS sites from a pure ability to score with his feet as well. I mean, he just gets so many rushing attempts that it's hard not to really like him. If you were going to be paying for one player to be the guy to get you $25 per share, Jalen Hurts would have to be it. Tom Brady would obviously be second in whichever capacity. You could go 1, 2 and flip those around however you want. It's negligible, the difference, but I think we're probably going to want to go elsewhere for our value.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Looking at these two guys and the small window you have of paying up. At 1926, we have 1749 projected respectively for Hurts and Brady as far as the value is concerned. And then if in fact one of them has a bad game or maybe is down, it's easier to point to passing. We know about Jalen Hurts as far as his ability, as you mentioned, to run, but the game script of the Bucs being up, which is easy to believe, the Bucs being up by 13, 14, 17, all of a sudden we see a building lead in the second half. And we can talk about, selling high if it is with Brady at the half in that scenario. But I also think that Brady kind of loses a lot of value to that point of being the top fantasy performer as drives take a little bit longer. Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones see a little more carries, things like that, where Jalen Hurts is the offense. It doesn't matter if the Eagles are up by 20 or down by 20. Jalen Hurts is the offense.
Yeah, and that makes him fun for like main slate stuff in terms of how you combine him in stacks and such. We're not concerned about that so much on Jock Market, but Jalen Hurts, the nice thing that you know about this team is that if Philadelphia gets anything done on the ground, it's probably going to be by way of Jalen Hurts. For the season so far, Tampa Bay, number one in the NFL and just preventing the rush in just about every single category you look at on the season. 45.8 rushing yards per game. Under 50 yards per game is just insanity. There's really no way to wrap your head around those low of totals, but they are extreme pass funnels. So, I mean, they've given up 300 yards plus in 4 of 5 games, and the one that they didn't was New England in an absolute monsoon, and they still gave up 294 by way of the air. The other underwritten fact about this game that I think just is really going to bode well is Antoine Winfield Jr. is out with a concussion. They don't even have their normal safety back there. They're just decrepit in the secondary. I don't see there being a whole lot of resistance for Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts throws the ball a lot more than people think that he does. So you combine him as being the best rushing attack that Philadelphia has. I think the prop that exists right now for Miles Sanders around the industry is around 34.5 rushing yards. That's your main rusher that you're looking at from the Philadelphia side. So Jalen Hurts is going to be the only guy who can get anything done, I think, on the ground. And he's going to be the guy who can eviscerate this team through the air. So I like the Jalen Hurts side. If I'm playing one player, it's just going to be really hard to do it on Jock Market, where he's going to most likely him and Tom Brady be the most expensive players.
You mentioned another player and hinted at it was on the Bucs. So let's look where you see the best value if we were looking at number right now, projection as far as where we have on Awesemo for fantasy points projected in Jock Market. Where is that third player that jumped out, non-quarterback, mind you, Eric, that's got the value?
Leonard Fournette. So Leonard Fournette out of the middle of nowhere.
So happy you said him.
Okay, good. Well, Leonard Fournette is the best play in DFS for this game, I believe. And it's just a secure backfield. So last week, we saw 62% of the offensive snaps for him, but it was an absolute trouncing, a blowout. And that's the only reason Ronald Jones saw the field, because they have shown a proclivity to go completely to him. And then Giovanni Bernard mixing in for random passing downs. The week before in New England, in a close game, 82% of the offensive snaps for Lenny, 36% the week before against the Rams in a losing effort. Again, they didn't necessarily mix him in as much there. And it's just kind of showing that they're like, oh, we messed that up. Leonard Fournette needs to be our guy going forward. Ronald Jones had the fumble, and he just does not existed on this team. He doesn't pick up blitzes very well. And protecting Tom Brady needs to be the number one thing you do as a running back, considering the passing attack is the most important part of this team. So Leonard Fournette can mix in those regards as well. Looking at our projections that we have over on Jock Market for this, you have Chris Godwin and Mike Evans that both rank above him. But in the event that both of them go off, I feel like I would want to have shares of Tom Brady as well, because I want to have exposure to that $25 slot. But Lenny Fournette can be individual out of all of it. Looking at Philadelphia on this side as well, too. I mean, Philadelphia has been a little bit inept, and it's not just stopping the ground. That Dallas game just sticks out in my mind as how inept they were stopping Ezekiel Elliott, but they've failed to keep a team under 100 yards rushing this entire season. I got to be thinking that this will be a positive game script for Tampa Bay, and in the event of that, really hard for me not to like a team that's given up 160, 200 yards rushing in 2 of their last 3 weeks.
It's so bad. It's one back in 3 straight games has gone 95 plus on them.
It's insane.
Ezekiel Elliott was 5 yards short of it being one individual going for 100 yards in each of their last 3 games. And look, they beat the Panthers last week, and a lot of people outside of maybe DFS and props didn't even really realize that Chuba Hubbard went over 100, but it's so easy to run the football. And wouldn't it be such a counter script? Everybody thinks, oh, Brady's going to throw for 500 yards. Here you come in. Leonard Fournette does the dirty work. Short week on the road. You get in, you get out. And all of a sudden we're seeing Fournette with 85 rushing yards and 25-30 receiving yards.
Yeah, and he hasn't had 100 yards rushing in a game yet. I think maybe that'll keep him a little bit in check for what people are expecting there.
It's the Eagles.
He gets the Eagles. And he's had more than 3 targets in every single game, 5 targets in his last 2. So he gets mixed in for passing work as well. he's just got the backfield. And so, I mean, I look at it 82% and 62%. We have to look at that Miami game knowing that they were up a zillion. Miami was in like hurry up mode there at the end. They were up like 45-10, I think it was at one point, or I think it was even 45-3 at one point in time. I know for sure that it was 35-3 there. And I just see it being something that they just kind of limited him. They limited the snaps of Chris Godwin there towards the end too, a guy who's normally on the field for 90% of the time. That was his first game underneath 89% all year. So we're looking at a team that's, I think, more well-rested than most teams coming off of a Sunday moving into Thursday, because that fourth quarter, nobody needed to do anything.
Before we move to the general slate here, I'm just curious, and we can go a little bit rapid fire, but let's look at the three Bucs receivers and then look at anybody other than Jalen Hurts on the way out of Thursday Night Football. And again, you mentioned Godwin and Evans. Antonio Brown might be a sneakier play just because of lower value, but looking at them as a unit, how do you approach those three?
So I look at Chris Godwin kind of being the standout guy the same way that our projections do. So I think that I agree with that, mainly because he's the one guy who just is continually on the field for 90% plus of the snaps. And when you're on the field and Tom Brady's your quarterback, good things are going to happen to your fantasy box score. Antonio Brown, as good as he's been when he's on the field, and he definitely gets targeted when he's out there. He's had 11 and 8 targets the last 2 weeks, coming off of being out in week 3. But he's only been on the field for 51% and 57% of snaps the last 2. So I think that they're still limiting him. He might not be completely 100%. He had some massive plays too to get to that 124-yard number. So Antonio Brown is definitely third on my board from a jock market perspective. I think you mix him in other DFS formats, but Chris Godwin for me on jock market, $10.19 true value we have for him.
Bad,
Mike Evans, $9.53. And with no Rob Gronkowski, I think Mike Evans is definitely the one who receives the largest red zone bump out of the grouping. But for me, it's just so hard to differentiate between him and Godwin in some spots. I'm just going to take the pure snaps. So Chris Godwin, who's just going to be on the field for 90% plus, so long as this game stays in check. He's the one wide receiver that they keep out there for blocking purposes, mainly because he's been immune to injuries in the same way that Mike Evans, who's been lingered by them in years past, and Antonio Brown, we know the history there. So I think Chris Godwin's my favorite, but if he's going to be the most expensive out of everybody else, you can make a case for the other two as well.
Devontae Smith. I mean, look, Miles Sanders, nobody runs against the Bucs. Why even bang your head against that wall? Quez Watkins, Jalen Reagor, these guys are so volatile. Zach Ertz even won't get the volume to be the top, or I don't even think top 3 fantasy performer. Devontae Smith, any interest there before we look at the main slate?
I mean, he's so good, right? I mean, are you enjoying watching him?
Touchdowns. I love it. I love him, but he's not. But
I love when guys don't have touchdowns. I love that. It's my favorite because touchdowns are such wild outcomes for a wide receiver in a lot of certain offenses, specifically this one where Jalen Hurts can get a lot done with his legs at goal line spots. Yeah, it's not going to be Devonta Smith, but if somebody's going to break a big play, and that's kind of what you're looking at to get to that $25 portion. Devonta Smith, I would have shares of him. So this is probably my favorite kind of way I'm looking at this strategy, and I'm going to try it out tonight. And, it's going to take longer than a 1-game sample size for me to really kind of accumulate what I want to do. But depending on where the value comes in, if it's Brady or Hurts, I'm not sure which one's going to be more expensive, because I think the public narrative that exists around Brady is that he's just better, and so he might end up being more expensive. But I think I might get some shares of Hurts, and I might combine it with shares of Devonta Smith. I think that they're so correlated. And if they're both going to have big games, maybe they go $25, $20, but having 3 or 4 shares of Devonta Smith and maybe 1 or 2 of Jalen Hurts, and just kind of hoping that the combination of the two goes off in the same way you might for other single game formats, I think that might be a solid way to go. And, if he ends up being somebody who's over $10, yeah, that's an easy stay away, but I don't see that necessarily happening when you have all of these Bucs players that everybody wants to play.
No, it's a great point as far as trying to build up on that and then basically double down, knowing that it's the two guys making that connection. That's going to be the majority of this offense. Again, it's not going to be Kenneth Gainwell. I can promise you that. All right, brother, let's
I see. Here. I like Kenneth Gainwell.
Here's the thing.
Don't besmirch.
No. I have Kenneth Gainwell plus 320 anytime TD. I have Kenneth Gainwell over 3.5 receptions. We talked about that on the betting show with Ben Rassa earlier today. So I'm on team Gainwell. Don't get me wrong.
All right. Well, I just wanted to check. Market. I'm not expecting much, but I definitely want to give him some shots. I want to give him some shots.
Yes. Again, great DFS shot, I think great from a prop standpoint. I don't know if you can count on him. I mean, look, I don't know if there was any okay, let me further this real quick. If there is a long shot on the board that could sneak his way up to being the third highest fantasy scorer in Jock Market tonight, it would be Kenneth Gainwell over anybody from Miles, and even including the guy ahead of him on the chart, Miles Sanders and below. So yeah, we'll take Devontae Smith out on our top projections. But yeah, it'd be Gainwell mainly because he's in short yardage passing situations. He's in the 2-minute drill. He's in the red zone. Plenty of scoring opportunities for Gainwell where he could sneakily get you like 60, 65 total yards and 2 TDs. And that could be good enough right there for third place.
And it's the same way I feel about Cameron Brate too. I mean, those guys are right next to each other. $3.36 and $3.96. I think they're going to have short ADOTs. I think they're going to be guys who have to get things done in a goal line situation where they're going to have to score probably to get you there. But, you know, if we're looking at everybody else being more expensive, these are the kind of plays that, you know, yeah, they might not work out every single time, but the times that they do, they're going to vault you up the board in a way where they're going to give you more room to grow on your investment. Whereas Hurts and Brady, it's so hard for them to get more than $7 or $8 period that they're going to add to your portfolio. So I do like going down to both of those two.
All right, my friend, let's look at this. And again, we ask you only to hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you are subscribed here. Take full advantage. We're going to match up to $50 your first deposit on Jock Market. Just use our promo code Awesemo. You see Tyler bouncing around, giving you our projections on Awesemo you can use with projected value. And it's not just for the single game that we're doing tonight here for Thursday Night Football. We'll start to look a little bit to Sunday. And again, we're trying to get guys, right, who are comfortable mostly at that QB position, but also at value spots to finish right there at the top 3. Where do you even begin on this larger slate?
We begin at the top with Patrick Mahomes, who I don't know if you've heard, the Chiefs are 2-3. That's not good, right?
They're not making the playoffs. Don't tell
what?
I'm telling
you. Oh my God.
I already locked it in. Yes, I did.
Oh,
plus
okay.
400 I got.
So I loved the Chargers coming into this season, and I feel very, very smart, smarter than the average bear. Plus, I didn't know. I knew Brandon Staley is going to be a coach that I liked quite a bit. I didn't know I was going to like him this much. This guy is just so legit. Joe Lombardi, the offensive coordinator there. I love the Chiefs. I digress. Yeah. Let's talk at the top of the board, Patrick Mahomes. This is Patrick Mahomes coming off of perhaps the most embarrassing loss of his career. I mean, everybody gave him an exempt pass here from the Super Bowl because the offensive line was decrepit. The offensive line is completely there. It was just his receivers dropping everything. Tyreek Hill fumbles it out of his hands, it was dead in his hands. Ends up going back for a pick 6. He has guys who aren't making plays. McCole Hardman can't hang on to the ball in some spots. There's been multiple times this season, even against the Chargers, some ridiculous turnovers. I expect Patrick Mahomes to just rely on him and Kelsey a ton this time out. This is the absolute most obvious, not even a squeaky Neal narrative, but I mean, Travis Kelsey has been underutilized so far this year. And if you want to talk about a sure-handed dude, it is Travis Kelsey. And teams have been scheming for either Hill or Kelsey pretty much all season long. Hill looks like, he's banged up. There's something going on. He didn't practice again today. I don't know if I freak out about that the way I might for other wide receivers, but looking at him at the top of our projections, I mean, he's $10.44 for a true value. Something tells me he still comes in a little bit cheaper. So as opposed to the Thursday night game where there's only one team and two teams, one game that we're utilizing, on this full field week 6 board that we have, Patrick Mahomes is by far, I think, going to be the guy that comes in lower priced than what he should in this spot. If he goes for $8, $9, you are absolutely stealing, because Patrick Mahomes coming off of losses in this spot is going to be the entire offense, especially with CEH out. Finally, it's going to be 100% him. So he's by far my favorite play on the board. And I think at the top end, he deserves where he's at in our rankings.
All right, let's flip this, because I'm curious how you approach somebody that you think it's going to be simply too high. Basically the opposite description that you just gave, the person that you want to stay away from, even if it's someone like Josh Allen, who is the second highest projected player, but you think that it's going to close somewhere around $12, $13 and it's too much, or it's just a matter of you don't trust that player as well. Where, as much as you have Mahomes as the confidence play, where is the stay the hell away play?
It is Derek Carr. And I don't think there's a second closest.
How is he even on that list right there?
Derek Carr is up there at $7.27. I mean, it's a quarterback heavy deal because they're the ones who accumulate 20 plus fantasy points. They have a tighter range of outcomes. So if you're going to have somebody go for 35 or 40 and a la Justin Herbert, how Derek Carr is somehow above Justin Herbert against Baltimore. They're both on the road. That's just wrong to me. So Derek Carr, $7.27. I don't know if you heard John Gruden got fired. You probably did, but I could just see the Vegas Raiders going into Denver, having some major issues. And sure, this team is going to try to air it out here in some spots. Earlier in the season, I mean, we had 435, 382, and 386 passing yards, the first three out of the gate. But then they actually played some real life defenses here. The Chargers held them under 200 yards. And then Chicago kept them at 206. There's really nothing outside of Darren Waller on that offensive side of the ball. They've been relying so heavily on Hunter Renfrow. Teams have been starting to scheme for that here the last 2 weeks, some real competent defenses. You have Darren Waller who's coming into this game banged up. He didn't practice again on Wednesday. He's got some kind of a knee issue. So I'm looking at this board. Keep an eye on that news. But in the event that you get Darren Waller out or something ridiculous like that too, I just see no way that they go into Mile High Stadium and figure out a way to be competent. Derek Carr, my favorite fade up top.
Yeah. Think about it too. This Raiders team just isn't, they're not good enough to band together. Like they don't have talent to just say, oh, let's turn off the noise and go on some major run. And as much as John Gruden is an idiot and everything that happened as a result of him being an idiot and probably more, you also have you're just taking him out from a football standpoint. It's hard for me to think like, oh, from an X's and O's standpoint, he was the problem, the reason why this team was struggling. So this to me is a fade Vegas in any and every capacity that you possibly can benefit from, including jock market from DFS to season long to betting.
Yeah, I think in DFS formats, Darren Waller would be all right, just because we know the kind of upside that can exist at a tight end position that is always generally weak. It's Travis Kelce, it's him, Mark Andrews. Maybe we have Kyle Pitts enter the conversation, but Atlanta's on a bye this week. I'm just kind of finding myself gravitating away from everything that has to do with Vegas. And I think that that's probably a good thing for everybody involved. But I'm looking at the rest of this board. I just think you don't have to force anything on Jock Market. That's the other nice thing, is that we have the value chart. If you take a look at all of the projections that we have over here, if you have Awesemo Plus, you're able to go here. You're able to find some value, and there will be value. Not every single one of these players is going to be properly owned next to their value barometer. I see Kyler Murray being a guy that at 23.59, that game against Cleveland, I mean, Cleveland has just shown nothing on the defensive side other than up against Justin Fields when they're able to get after the passer. But against any competent offensive line, they've been inept. And Arizona has a great offensive line so far this season. And Kyler Murray makes so much stuff happen out of the pocket where it's not a normal quarterback. So Cleveland, even if they do get pressure, Kyler Murray's going to find ways around it. I'd say he'd be another guy at 839. You have so many quarterbacks on this board that just are going to be undervalued comparatively. So I like getting to a lot of those guys. I mean, we have so many wide receivers that, there's going to be a larger range of outcomes for some of them, but on Jock Market, don't force it. Find the plays that you like the most. And there should be some type of value that exists on the top of the board.
Isn't it interesting that Aaron Rodgers is so low, under 20 points? We have Devontae Adams pretty high as far as his projection. And I was looking at Rodgers and the name you brought up, which is Justin Herbert, as two guys. And look, matchup aside, you're trying to get ahead of the value. And if it's a really difficult matchup that's scaring people away, then, hey, you've done your job if it counters with a lot of – you've won DFS tournaments, I'm sure, with that strategy going against the public sentiment. So these guys being low and under 650 each, I'm thinking that can be an opportunity for both sneaky value, especially as far as where we have them projected on both value and points.
Well, yeah, and you want to find guys that can just outproduce their projection. That's what we're looking for all the time. The only difference is that we have no ownership considerations that we have to make over at Jock Market. We get to basically just say, I want to invest in this player or I don't want to invest in this player. You can short them as well. But I'm just looking at the bottom of the board just to kind of round it all out. keep an eye on Chuba Hubbard. Keep an eye on this Christian McCaffrey piece, because right now we have him at $2.80 with a 12.4 projection. That thing would be skyrocketing in the event you get no Christian McCaffrey. Find some of these backup running back spots, really react to injuries. We have 90 minutes from that. It's 8:30 out here on the West Coast, so 11:30 out on the East Coast that you're looking at. That hour and a half, once the injuries come out, the inactives come out for those afternoon or the first slate of games that you have, really be reacting to some of those injury news, because that might be the time that you can get some of these players that can way out project, somebody like a Devontae Booker or somebody else of that nature as well.
Awesome, brother. I think we've covered as much as we possibly can here with this track, especially looking from Thursday night now through the big slate on the weekend. Did you hear my
Siri.
phone?
Hello, Siri.
No, it's not Siri. It's Sam's. It's my Samsung, and I don't know how to turn that thing off. And I've talked to other people, and I've Googled and everything, and it's like it turns itself back on. I'm telling you, I'm on.
I am
list
Satan's
here.
keeper. It's like
you don't want to be
Samsung devil.
Oh, okay. I'm telling you, I'm on some crazy list. Absolutely. No, we appreciate it. And thanks to everybody out there. Hit that thumbs up button. Seriously, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. That does us wonders. Thank Eric for making you some money tonight and across the board on Jock Market. And you see, he mentioned it's all about what you do once you have shares and buying low and selling high and taking advantage of game flow as well. So we appreciate it to everybody else out there. Tyler, thank you for producing. We're back next week. Get you ready for Thursday night and the main slate here on Awesemo. Peace.